outside and in. Yeah, I know how it feels, and I've tried to forget, but it's not the same since you've been away. Ooh. Ever since you've been away.
So what's your name?
Jordana Lily Dinalo.
And how old are you?
I'm 16.
And what do you want to do when you grow up?
I probably want to be like an NFL player.
I haven't really decided on a profession, but I decided a while ago I wanted to do something related in some way to pandas.
I want to be a nurse practitioner.
Excellent. What inspired that?
Getting sick. I was 14. I went into high school. I was completely fine. And then November 17th, I got my first cold in 8 years. And then November 20th, I woke up with this like weird onset of like symptoms. So it was like OCD, but I didn't know it was OCD at the time.
Ironically, after a football game, the coach made all of us go on like hot cement and put our hands on like hot cement. So basically after that, before I could go into my bed, I had to wipe my whole body down in Clorox wipes.
I started researching my symptoms because we didn't fully know exactly what was going on. We knew that there was something wrong, but like, because we went to a therapist and the therapist was like, you know, it's OCD. This is the most severe OCD I've ever seen. Like, they wanted to admit me into a psych ward, and my mom was like, this is not Jordana, like, at all. So we left the therapist because like she was trying to admit me and stuff. And we were like researching.
My brother got it, and my mom was just like trying to figure out what was going on with him, and he was going to like speech therapy and like regular therapy and like everything, and we'd drive like a couple hours every night to go to like some faraway place that like specialized and whatever, and go to different doctors. We had no idea what was wrong. And then my mom at like 2 a.m. on one night was on Google, and then she was just like, she found Pandas Network or something, and she looked up, she saw a list of symptoms, and she was like, yeah, it was just like a checkbox. Like, she just like went down and all of them worked. We went to Dr. Latimer, and she looked at me and she's like, yep, you have pandas.
We walked into the office and she looked at me. She looked at my eyes, and my pupils were so big, and she's like, you have pandas.
It was kind of hard. I was having like suicidal thoughts sometimes because it was just really hard trying to figure out, because I didn't know what was going on with me at first. We didn't figure out to the following year that I had pandas. So at first we thought it was just regular OCD. So my parents got me in with OCD specialists over cognitive behavioral therapy or something like that, like exposure therapy. And I went to Rogers in Florida, and that was definitely a traumatic experience for me because we
what's Rogers?
It's an exposure therapy place.
Oh.
I remember one exposure was, this was probably the worst one of all. I had to, I was afraid of touching the ground. I was afraid of the ground. So they had me sit on the ground with my hands flat on the ground and ask people walking by what was on the ground. But there was a lot of exposure. I did really good at Rogers, I believe, because I was petrified. I was so scared. I just wanted to go home. So I went through the airport security, and the guy was really nice. I couldn't take my shoes off because I was scared of the ground and my socks touching the ground. So he let me take my shoes off and hold my feet in the air and check my feet without my feet touching the ground. So that was really nice by that guy.
Started having even worse OCD. I started having personality switches, multiple personalities, over 150 characters, but I had like 5 main different personalities. Okay, so I made them their own Instagram. They posted this on my main Instagram. I had to delete it.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, the attitude.
So weird. Like Izzy signing on top of the personality switches, like immediately in the beginning before treatment and stuff. It trailed out through everything, but I had insane hallucinations.
It'll just be like, I'll get exposed to something, and then one day I'll wake up and I like can't get out of bed, and like everything in me feels like extremely heavy. One day I'll wake up and I'll have like very extreme anxiety and like very extreme depression, and it's like my whole entire outlook on life changes.
And then when we went back to 8th grade, I caught strep again. So everything started spiraling back to where it used to be. But it was like my school they weren't fully committed to the second wave. So I go to the principal's office. I was like, hey, are you gonna try to help me? You know, I'm going through OCD stuff, so it's hard for me to get stuff. And the thing he said after that, he said, if there was a football game and one team had OCD and the other team didn't, they wouldn't wait for the other team that held OCD to not let them play, to let them play. And that just hit, you know, that kind of hurt my heart, really.
So June 1st was the first day that I was able to go in public and walk, because I hadn't been able to walk for a year and a half. I was so excited. I got back into field hockey. And then July 12th, 2021, the left side of my body was paralyzed from here down. So by then I was in a wheelchair. I couldn't do anything. I had to relearn how to use this side of my body. I had to relearn how to walk. I still had tons of seizures a day. Then I was diagnosed with severe anemia. So I started having hallucinations again, paranoia, insane paranoia. OCD again. August 1st, I got my walking back. I just got the last round of IVIG. That's it. That's the story. Ever since I got sick, my coping mechanism is humor. That's it. Yeah, I always say that, like, I'm 16. I have short-term memory loss. I always say that I could throw myself a surprise party.
How old are you now?
17.
Is your passion NFL if you can?
Yeah, if I can, why not? The ground is really a big thing for me. That's probably my biggest fear.
So your big challenge playing football is going to be being tackled. There's all sorts of metaphors in life. That's why things are called being grounded. Being grounded as a human being is a good thing. It means you have your feet on the ground, means you're steady.
Down to earth.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
Yes.
But you can be down to earth with shoes on. That's all.
How old are you now?
I am 19 years old.
And what do you want to do when you grow up? What would you do?
I'd want to direct horror movies. I think that's like the one thing I'd be really good at. Like, okay, let's sit down, let's go into me, and I'll give you like 10 horror film ideas. So I did like a self-portrait of like kind of how I feel when it's like that.
Wow. Okay. You know what that portrait says to me? Gravity.
Yeah, everything
Like
is
you're being
heavy.
sucked into the ground.
I have this one, but this one was more. The background doesn't really explain, but it was just kind of like that. It's like you get stuck in like a dark place, so it's kind of, I guess it's hard to like recognize the feelings as dark. It's not like you're feeling dark things, it's just like you're existing in a dark world.
My greatest fear, relapsing, happening all again. Did we meet? What do you know? What month we met last
Yeah,
year?
it was in January. It was in January last year. It was exactly a year ago.
So a lot has happened. Beginning of January, I started getting like sharp shooting pains in my shoulders, and that kind of moved to shooting down like my spine. And so like all day long I was getting shooting down my spine and my back and my shoulders. Then I started getting really bad asthma. We went to a new doctor. We found a new doctor. I ended up being in the hospital for like 5 days in a row in the ER. So I got COVID. After that, I was still super sick. My oxygen was really bad. I was on oxygen for like a month and a half. And a bit after IVIG, I was so bad. I was like, my inflammation levels were like at 100. It was like really scary. I got 1,000 milligrams of IV steroids in one night, overnight, and that was like the worst thing ever. My face was like this big, my hands, like I couldn't move my hands, they were so swollen, and then that kind of knocked it out. So like a week after that, a couple days after that, I woke up and I was like so much better because the steroids kind of knocked everything out. After that, I think February 11th or February 26th, I can't remember, it was one of those, I think. That was the last day that I had any episode, like hallucinations, hallucinations, seizures. It's almost been a year since, like, a year seizure free, a year like hallucination free, which is really, really crazy. I didn't think I'd ever see that.
The longer that I can have a period where nothing's happening, it's more like, okay, maybe I'll have a flare again, but if I can just remember this feeling right now during that flare, I'll remember that I'll be okay again.
I did my STAR like 2 months ago, and I was really anxious about it because like for like a long time with my perfectionism, if that's a word, it's been really hard for me to do like standardized tests because I get stuck on a question. So I thought I definitely was going to get stuck, but I was able to finish it. I think it was like 60 some questions. And one of the questions was an essay, and I finished it in like 2 hours.
Well, hopefully that example of your test and not having to be perfect can be emblematic of what you can apply to other areas in your life where you realize you're not going to be perfect, and that is okay.
Another thing with my OCD, it's been hard to make like decisions, like simple decisions. It could be the simplest of decisions and I can't make them.
I assume this sort of makes dating difficult.
You're funny.
Yeah, dating's overrated. I'm joking.
Is it though? I have a girlfriend. Isn't that crazy? At least one of my touchdowns. Dude, that was just like the tip of the iceberg. I started school. I went to homecoming. Grace of God, I'm back here doing what I love to do. Being at school with people and playing football. This was me working out.
So you just work out 10 seconds at a time? Is that it?
It was a job. I'm like, what? Nah. And this was me after I was asleep. I was tired. Just me on the ground working out.
Pushing your face towards the ground.
Yeah. Crazy, right?
Would you still claim you have OCD?
Yeah. I would.
But it no longer rules you.
Exactly.
Okay.
That's the important part.
If you could talk to your 7th grade self, what advice would you give your 7th grade self?
Some days gonna be a little crazy. Maybe a lot of days gonna be a little crazy, but take your medicine. Try to breathe deep. Take it day by day. It's gonna be okay.
How are you?
Very good.
Are you?
Very good. Yes. Way better than like 30 doctors told me that I would ever be. 2 weeks ago, I started being able to read and like actually process what I'm reading, which is like insane, which is crazy. So anyways, I got to college and I think it was week 6. I got a call from my doctor and she was like, because I was doing so well. I was so well. And she was like, I think we can push your IVIG to quarterly. And it was like the greatest news of my life. I was so excited because I thought it would take me many more years to get to that point. Fast forward, it gets to like the 12-week mark and I'm like freaking out. And I get a Zoom call with my doctor and she gets on and she's like, well, we put Humpty Dumpty back together again. And I'm like, what do you mean? And she's like, you don't need to get it anymore. Yeah. So my mom and I were both like, I found out that I didn't need IVIG anymore and my friends and I made a panda cake with a cross out on it.
When I was a kid, I think I talked about this last year, but when I was a kid, like every single time, once I got pandas, I would, like on my birthday, every single year for like, probably since like 4th grade, like on the candle, I would wish to be happy. But now as a 20-year-old, I'm like, happiness isn't, you're not just gonna be happy all the time. Happiness is something you have to work for by making sure you're the best self you can be in terms of the situation you're in. So I'm not going to escape pandas and escape my trauma just by like waking up one day and having it all be gone. It's like something I'm going to have to actually work towards. I think right now, like what I've been doing has been working, and I do think that my pandas is getting better, and like right now I don't feel it at all.
What would you tell the 10-year-old Kendall that started to go through this, that has struggled and struggled? What would you want her to know from your point of view now?
That it's more about the little things, and you just have to focus on that, and that it will be okay. And it's about like just reminding yourself about the little things. Like I get to wake up every morning and I get to have coffee with my mom. That in itself is so beautiful, and I'm gonna hang out with my friends and I'm going to read a book and I'm gonna learn about something new. And it will be okay. I'm gonna live my life and I'm gonna appreciate the little moments, and one day I'm gonna wake up and it will be okay.
It just makes you even more grateful for like life. Like you don't realize how amazing people are, like and like talking and seeing people till you don't have them for 4 years straight. And like going to school and like interacting, it's so amazing. I'm like you're always like, you can't find me with a frown at school. I'm always like super happy just to talk to people.
Without being that sick, I would not be able to think like I do and like have the outlook on life that I do, that people don't even get till they're like either much older or get it all. So I feel like it made me a much better person.
What would you say to your 13-year-old self?
With it all, you'll help a lot of people. I think that'd make me happy if I knew that I had to go through all that, but it did really help a lot of people.